So let me just give you the quick Coles notes on how this works. Typically, channel, you all sort of understand our energy fields and the fields around us and what our architecture, as the collective likes to call it, that we're living in um, through our physical body has four systems, has our cognitive mind, has our emotional body, has our energetic body, like the energy meridians that are running through us. And then there's a sensing system that typically gets left out. Those that live in the purview of psychic or mediumship or intuitive tend to be very sensitive in their sensing systems, pulling in information from the surrounding energy field, from your energy field, from their energy field, and depending on the strength of their signal further out. A channel is different. A channel is sort of what I call like hardwired in through the energetic body to a connection of higher beings. So most of us also have sensing sensibilities. So most of us also have the ability to um, utilize mediumship or somewhat psychic abilities. Those aren't my purview. My purview is just directly to a group of beings that call themselves the collective that are come in through my energetic system. And now I use the vertical visual framework because they liken it to, like, if you think about levels of an apartment building, it's sort of like earth and earthbound entities and energies sort of like here. And there's like different layers up and down, not good or bad. I just tend to go up. And so that's just to give you an indication of like the types of beings that pass through my particular system. So yes, so what I would say as a disclaimer always to start off an event like this, listen, you guys, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a therapist. I am actually a photographer. That's what I do for a living. This is now a huge part of what I do. But I just have to make that disclaimer of this is not designed as therapy or any of that good stuff. If you happen to be engaged in that, please continue to do that, and all those good things. And then the only other thing that I usually like to say is that I know when you're working with mediums and psychics that there's often a container that's built for protection of the group. And I want to assure you that I've been told multiple times that this particular channel is safeguarded by three beings. Artemis is usually the being that comes through, that is the energy that is associated with that goddess. She's my primary guide. I'm super lucky. And there are two others that protect this channel. So the information that comes through is of higher level is the only way I can describe it. They don't generally let through people who have just passed unless it is in service of the individual in front of me. So that will not be happening tonight. So just to give you the wide view on this. Anybody have any questions before I drop in and we find out what they want to talk about fear? I've been dying to know what they want to talk about. I don't have any advanced information on this one. So any questions? Excellent. All right. So let's begin. Good evening. Welcome. I am Artemis. I am the gatekeeper of this particular channel. We invite you at this time to put down your pen and paper and be with us in a fully engaged manner. We will begin this evening by offering a meditation to bring all of our nervous systems into alignment And so if you would find yourself seated with your feet firmly placed on the floor, for those of you who have sensitivity to energetic fields, we recommend a barefooted experience with your feet firmly planted 6 to 10 inches apart. And as you sit and lengthen your spine, allow for the verticality to arise with as least resistance and any tension throughout your physicality as possible. And we begin by focusing our intention and attention not on our breath this evening, but on the electrical pulses that buzz through your physicality. We begin by focusing on our feet, where we draw in information and energy through the ground, the substrate, the earth. And we focus on the sensations at the bottom of our feet as we notice the tingling, the buzzing, the reaction between the feet and the floor. We draw in energy through the pads of our feet up into our structures. We draw this energy up through our ankles, through our calves, through our knees, into our hips. And we pause in the hip area. As we allow this energy to live in the hips, we draw in breath and we exhale, allowing the expansion of this energy to permeate all tissues. And we draw in breath and we exhale to expand this energy through this area, warming this area, allowing it to feel energized. And we release. And we would cycle through this again, drawing in energy through the pads of the feet up into the structures, bringing it up into the ankles, into the calves, into the knees. For those of you who have trouble with your knees, now is a good time to focus on those areas of tension and healing. And as we bring that energy up now further into our hips, we pause. And with our intention, we focus on this energy with a warm, welcoming light. As this area warms through your attention to the particulate as it moves, notice the sensation that arises as you focus on it. Notice the quality of the sensation. thumping, buzzing, prickling, tickling. Depth or shallow, fast or slow, warm or cool, expansive or hyper-localized. And as you notice the qualities of the energy as you have pulled it into this location, we now select one of those qualities to focus on. If the easiest quality for you to notice is a texture or a buzzing, allow for that to amplify now. If it feels as though it is pulsing, allow the pulse to grow louder. If it is a texture or temperature, allow that temperature to grow in intensity. And at this time, with your attention and intention, we begin to notice that in this location, where you find the most significant energetic signature, you may also begin to detect an emotion. You may begin to detect a cognitive loop that drops in as you focus here. A thought that arises as it has occurred from your day. A thought that comes into play as you continue to focus on this energetic frequency that is emitting from this location is often associated with this location. And so we allow it to be. We do not ask you to disassociate from the thought or the emotion. We ask you to allow for it to be existing, as does the pulse, as does the emotion. And we draw in a breath and we release, allowing warmth to flood the area and a releasing of any excess energetic signature sensations that allow for your relaxation. And as we complete this cycle, we begin to notice an expansion in this area. We begin to notice a relaxation in this area. We begin to notice what you might describe as spaciousness in this area. As we focus on the hips this evening, we draw your attention to that sensation that lingers. As you have exhaled and released any excess, the lingering sensation, the signature of this area, is where we will be looking as we develop our skills around fear. And as you take a snapshot now of this sensation, in order to be able to locate it again with ease, we draw you back into your physicality, into the specifics of the location that you inhabit at this time. Moving fingers and toes and opening eyes as is needed and wanted, and arriving back into your room. And so we often begin our group sessions with a meditation or an exercise to bring each of us into this space, but also indeed to prime and prep the teaching and the content for the particular session. And as we are discussing fear, we wanted to bring you into your energetic body as it arrives in the location that is most often associated with fear. Many of you come to us thinking your fear lives in your chest. Your fear lives in your shoulders. Your fear lives in your stomach. You experience fear in whatever way, shape, or form it occurs, and immediately your physicality tightens. It contracts. You bring into existence this energetic sensation into the upper body as a way of releasing, in fact. And this sensation arises as you complete the cycle of energy as it has come into your system. And so it is no wonder that the more experience you create, the more experience you have of fear, the more the loop continues to arrive in those particular locations as it exits your body. She who sits in front of you is also called by those of us here who transmit through her, Angelica. You know her as Rachel. Her particular system, as it brings in fear through her hips, where those tones exist, allows this energy to rise up in her system and it exits her shoulders. Her face flushes and her shoulders contract. And this contraction, consistent over time, has created a physical hallmark of slight discomfort that lives within her body. The signature is carried throughout her life. And so, as we begin to discuss fear and the different types of fear, you may look to your own systems to begin to identify where they live, how they occur, where they release. And once we have done so, we can begin to effectively work with the information as it arrives in your system before it becomes a cognitive thought that creates the loop that you most often live within. And so at this time, we will begin from the beginning. The human body was designed for an energetic experience. As you all know, you come into this body, your soul energy arrives at the moment of conception, sparking the energy that allows for the egg and the sperm that have cojoined to split. Your soul energy inhabits every cell in your body. Your energetic system was born in that moment. Your sensing self, the ability to pull in information from your field and from surrounding fields, cojoins with the senses as they develop in utero. And so you think of your sensing body as having 5 senses. You have 7. Tonight we are talking about the 6th sense, your sensing system that lives in every cell, that pulls in information from the energetic fields surrounding you. You pull in this information, it draws into and transfers into your energetic body, moves through your energetic body to create a chemical reaction that creates an emotion that is understood and read by your cognitive mind that gives you your beliefs, thoughts, and structure. And so, as this system runs within the physicality, we can learn to separate the scope of the parts, thereby reading and understanding the information as it comes in before it follows the pathways that have naturally accumulated within your physicality and has been handed down from ancestor to ancestor. As we have identified for many of you, those areas that bring in the information that causes the sensation of fear, this sensing area is most often located in the lower regions. As fear is produced as a chemical reaction, the emotion, you most associate these emotions with the upper body. But in fact, most often the information arrives earlier than this. It arrives in the lower regions, it is transferred into the electrical body. It then creates the chemical reactions that cause the emotion that signals to the brain fear. And so it is helpful to look to these processes, to understand these systems, to become acclimated to the sensations as they arrive in your system, to be able to work with them before the hijacking of the brain and the nervous system. How do we do this? Because we have been taught that fear comes from our brain experiencing something that causes an emotion. We identify the discomfort as the emotion. And then, as the cognitive mind reads the emotion, creates the loop, increased heart rate, increased breath, so on and so forth. You feel discomfort in your physicality because your physicality in itself is reacting to the emotion and the cognitive loop. It is not reacting to the information as it comes into the system. It is, in fact, your physical body that is creating the discomfort. At this time, we understand this may be quite a bit of new information for some of you who are new to our ecosystem. Does this make sense? Do you have questions?
Makes sense to me.
Very good. And so, we would like you at this time to draw pen and paper back into your space. And we will begin to work an exercise to develop the ability to sense this information and work with it before it creates constriction and tension within the physical body. And so, for each of you on this call tonight, fear plays a particular role in your life, as it does with every human. Fear is good. It allows us to protect ourselves. It allows us a warning signal. Do not touch. Do not go there. Stop that action. This is dangerous. Fear is a natural mechanism that keeps you safe. It is an innate byproduct of your ancestral heritage. And it was designed to keep you safe. It was also not designed with the modern world in mind. And so, as it is now no longer tigers and lack of food that we are afraid of, but often circumstances, situations, and occasionally each other that are cause for concern. We no longer live in communities. We most often live in small or non-existent family units and communicate more or less as we are doing this evening through screens. And your system was not designed for this. We are designed to mirror each other, to be with each other, to learn from each other. We are designed to co-regulate, if you will. And so we so often find that our fears are a churning of information that our brain, our cognitive process, spits out on a platter for us to consume. And the mechanism to keep us safe is designed to continue the churn and to ever grow the churn. The stories become bigger, the beliefs become more embedded, and the result is physical tension that causes illness and pain. And so we would like at this time for you to write down 1, 2, or 3 areas that cause physical discomfort within your life. At this time, we will not use the term fear, but that is what it is. What experiences create physical discomfort for you? What experiences do you shy away from because there will be literally discomfort? What personal connection would you like to have, but yet you shy from for discomfort? What experience is available to you, but for discomfort? And as you look at this list that grows, we would have you select 1 or 2 that were the easiest and quickest to come into your mind. Allow yourself to select one, the first one, and take a moment to allow for the cognitive mind to do what it does best. Serve you up the experience, protect you from wanting or needing what the experience would allow for. Place yourself in that circumstance. Sense into your physicality the actual discomfort. As we previously mentioned, this is often the energetic release. It is often closer to the upper body where this energy releases. What do you see in your physical body as you do this thought exercise? Do you curl forward? Do you lean back? Does one shoulder begin to ache? Does your stomach begin to hurt? What sensations arise in you? Note these physical sensations down next to that line on your paper. This is not bad. These reactions are good. This is an indication that the energy is being released, that it is completing its cycle. The more often it completes this cycle, the more often the physical body remains in that location. And so, an aside note, for some who are progressing through somatic healing or taking in massage therapy for these ailments, tonight will be important for the release of these energetic sensations. The completion of this cycle is necessary and good, but it does not resolve the underlying issue. And thus, the situation with that physical ailment in that location being the echo of the problem will allow an easing once we discuss where the location actually exists. But we would like you to identify this echo, this releasing, for it is often within this release that points you towards where the original or originating signal is coming from. For example, if the release occurs, as it does in Angelica, through her left shoulder, the corresponding right hip is usually where the most significant information that is driving the fear is coming from. There is a cross-body pathway often. Should your ailment occur on the left side, it is most often towards the right lower limbs. If the ailment occurs on the right side, it is often the originating source on the left. And so, should you find your source of completion through the stomach and diaphragmatic area, you may look to both sides to see where the intensity lies. And so we now utilize that first expression of physical discomfort, and we dive into the lower limbs to see where the sensation occurs the most, where the energetic frequency arrives with strength. Financial fears often arrive in hips. Physical ailment fears often arrive in the buttocks and in the knees. Fear of abandonment, fear of reciprocity often arrives in the thighs. Fear of rejection is often either in the hips or the knees. Fear of failure is also most often occurring in the thighs or the knees. Each individual is different. Each individual's energetic signature is different. Each of you will need to spend time locating these sources for yourself. The meditation we gave at the beginning of this evening will help direct you towards uncovering those energetic signatures where these tones exist. We understand many of you will not know what we are referring to by tone. We are able to provide a YouTube link to describe this outside of this session. Now we come back to our first example on our list. And as we dove into the hip area to locate that energetic sensation, we would ask you to begin there at this time. Should your release move through the left side, we look to the right hip. we dive into that area of sensitivity. We look for the energetic signature in that area. We find the pulse, we find the buzz, and we recognize it as a focal point or a tone where our sensing, our energetic body, our emotional body, and cognitive mind intersect, sending out frequency, sending out tone. And as we locate this, we begin to become aware of this sensation as it pulses and arrives. And as we are aware of this location and sensitivity, we begin to become sensitized to an increased sensation in this area. This increased sensation indicates more information arriving. And now we understand that this is nuanced in sensation, in feeling in the body. We understand that you have only identified to date emotional release in its physical intensity. This way of working, of beginning to recognize sensations and information as it arrives and comes into your body before it becomes a cognitive loop, is a new way of experiencing. It's a new way of living. And it does take practice. What we do once we identify the sensations and recognize when there is an increase in information in that area is then to build structures around what to do with the information as it arises. As you become increasingly aware of living in your spaciousness and living in your sensing body, this arrives with ease. Or your sensing self recognizes the pulse, it recognizes the information. And your sensing begins to tell you, it begins to show you in your knowing what to do and how to be. In other words, you are activating the body of knowledge and awareness that can feed you information, make decisions, and drive your day before the emotional reaction that creates the cognitive loop, that creates the release of the physical sensations arises. Indeed, when we catch this, before the cognitive mind engages, fear no longer becomes fear. Fear, as you recall, is the chemical reaction that causes the emotion, that causes the cognitive mind to react. As we recognize the information as it comes in and begin to act on it, we begin to notice and sense and see how the chemical reaction that creates the feeling of fear, the emotion of fear, all but disappears. It is no longer needed. We act on the information as information only, not as something for your physical body to brace against. And so, at this time, we would have you look at your second example of physical tension. And we run the exercise again. Where is the release, the completion of the circuit arise in your body? Again, should it arise on the left, we tend to look to the right. Should it arise on the right, we tend to look to the left. Where in your hips, thighs, knees do you most feel an increase in sensation? If it is difficult to sense when you are sitting, you may also lay down or straighten out your physical body. As you focus your intention on that area where there is a more significant physical buzz, energetic sensation, we move into that tone, into that location. We dive into and through that location. This is something that we teach in the Foundations course. We arrive at the spaciousness and allow for the information to come into our space in order to act on it. As this flow begins to arrive in your daily life, as you begin to utilize this experience of energetic body and sensing body together, you begin to see how information becomes just that, information. And at that stage, the loops complete. They are no longer needed. They are allowed to rest. And as the completion loop softens and is utilized less and less and less, you begin to see how the physical body changes, how the posture changes, how your entire being shifts. And so, do you have questions?
I do, Artemis. This is Eve.
Yeah.
So when we notice our body reacting to something unwanted,
Yes.
is it then our, does that behoove us to tell ourselves this is just information and then we break the loop? Am I understanding that correctly?
This is an excellent question. What to do when the physical reaction has just occurred? For an individual who is not quite at the stage of recognizing and utilizing information as it comes into your system to bypass the chemical reaction that occurs, the chemical reaction has occurred. We sense it in the physicality, and we sense it because it is completing its circuit. What do we do at this stage? It is certainly helpful for the cognitive mind to remember, if it is possible, It is not always possible to remember when the circuit has completed that you are indeed simply experiencing a chemical reaction that is caused by information that is causing discomfort in the body. Should you be able to disassociate from the experience at that point, to be able to recognize that and remember that, your physical sensations will lower. But that does not change the fact that the information is still arriving in your system. It merely completes the cycle faster for you. At this point, you have already processed through the cognitive mind. And really, what you are doing is completing the cycle so that the cognitive mind does not continue to spin. This, in effect, is good. This is the beginning stages of awareness. And so, if you are at this stage and can catch it here, this is beginning. If you are at the stage where you can recognize the sensation in your physicality before the cognitive mind runs its gathering of information and serving it to you on a platter, you may be able to recognize and complete the cycle faster. Should this be within your purview, we recommend generally movement. Movement releases excess energy or energy that needs to be completed faster than any other method. Grounding is good. Being in nature is good. Music is good, but physical movement will do the trick faster. Whatever way, shape, or form is helpful to you, that is what we recommend. The next stage is beginning to associate the information and the reactions within your energetic body as the information comes in. You will recognize this often as a moment of pause, a moment of sixth sense catching on. For you particularly, Eve, it is the moment of pause before the chemical reaction. For those of you who have sensitivities in place already, that pause is where the allowing takes place. Let us use an example. You enter a room full of people. You walk through the room and something feels fine but slightly off. And then you turn the corner and you know why. There is an individual that does not read well for you. Before you turn the corner, you feel that energetic sensation within your system. At this time, where you are pausing, where the pause happens, is where the information is being pulled in. Your sensing self, your knowing, recognizes and is working. It is here where we suggest you begin to look. Or here is where your knowing is. Here is where the energetic sensations arise. And as you dive into those sensations, into the nucleus of your tone, we ask and receive, and we act. And so, without full training, that is the best way to go about recognizing those moments.
Can I ask, as a baby, we don't have a cognitive mind kind of online. So do these fear cycles, loops, not exist?
No, they exist. They do not exist as thought yet.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we use the example of a baby being dropped. It is not the impact that causes fear. It is the feeling of falling through the air that causes fear. The information of air running past the sensory system moves into the physical body, into the energetic system, creating a chemical reaction that creates the cognitive loop, the information to form. Fear arrives, contraction takes place. At this point, the babe does not have language, does not identify it as fear per se, but the emotional reaction occurs. It is fed to the brain. The brain does not understand what is occurring. It senses something is different and contracts. Immediate cognitive thought loop is formed. And so, the more sophisticated a human being becomes, meaning language, the more the loops become difficult to break because loop begets loop. And you all have experienced this. You have a sensation of one fear that feeds on another, that feeds on another, that feeds on another, that feeds on another. Indeed, once a thought has taken place, your brain is designed to continue to look for other thoughts that match that thought, to compare and contrast and confirm the original thought, and thus the spiral forms. What we are suggesting is that we begin to utilize our sensing self and our energetic bodies such that we begin to understand the information as it is coming into our systems, to fine-tune and begin to learn with our intuition. You might call it your sixth sense, your knowing, thereby bypassing the release that must occur. Or we bring in this information, we sense it, we work with it, we utilize it, and we do not have the emotional reaction. And we do recognize one more time that this is not the way humans have been living for the last several thousand years. We do recognize that this takes practice. And we do also recognize those amongst you who already have a developed intuitive sense that there have been times where you have felt this and acted upon it and recognized it as something extraordinary. This extraordinary moment in your life need not be extraordinary, can be worked on to allow it to be your everyday. And imagine what that would be like for humans to live like this, to be in connection with each other, with all that is, to live from your sensing self, to live from a state of pulling in information and acting on it as information, to live in this sense of well-being that is created by this, to live in harmony with each other as you pull in information and sense each other in real time without games. And so we bring this exercise based on fear, for it is palpable for many of you, and it is a location where we know many of you would like to begin. That is specifically why in level 2, we began with fear of financials, and we'll continue this course of action throughout the year.
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, I recently had a reading that connected me to my father who passed about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And what came through was something regarding fear, which was to not be fearful, not to have fear of anything. Can you talk to that?
Yes. Many who have spent much of their lives living in a strong grip of fear pass this down through their ancestral lineage, meaning through your cellular DNA. These ways of being, these beliefs, these habits that are in fact literally created as we suggested by this process. The more you live in fear, the more that begets more fear. As you pull in information into the locations that generally she does not have the word we're looking for. We will work around this, that are generally indicative of fear, meaning many of the experiences that cause you fear are associated and pulled in, rather they are concentrated in that particular tone that attracts more of that particular type of information as it pulls into you, that creates a systemic inputting situation into that location, rising up through the body, exiting the body in a similar manner. And once this is rigidly in place, the sensing self is consistently working in this manner. It is consistently scanning for things that create fear. Much like your cognitive mind is scanning, it is occurring in your sensing self. And as that begets itself over and over and over and over again, there is a rigidity, a hardening within the physicality. And that begins to control the cellular systems. That is what is passed down. It is not necessarily the experiences themselves, but the physical way of manifesting that within the rigidity. And so often with ancestors who have experienced great fear and continued that, have passed this down, as they begin to heal, and release, it often is passed to each individual as they do their ancestral work. A lessening, a softening of these physical pathways of release. And so, if that is the case for you, we do highly recommend ancestral release and healing. That will have an impact on your physicality. Will it have an impact on your experience of fear? Yes. For as your physicality, the way in which you are trained to release softens, you are more easily able to access your energetic body. And as you are able to access your energetic body, your sensing self becomes more accessible. And once that occurs, we can begin to work within your tonal range and begin to sense these experiences before they become needing a physical release. And so this is very good information to have and to begin to work with. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I have a question as well. This is Monica.
Hi.
Hello. Two related actually. So in regard to this ancestral release, so whatever was passed down to us is essentially ours to move through and to heal. Does that mean that that ancestral passing down could potentially end with us, or is it inevitable that we would still pass whatever may be left over, or if anything, down? Is, I guess, the first piece. And then the second piece is it for each individual, does fear continue to come up in the same place in our bodies? Or depending on what it is, does it continue to move around if we are wanting to practice with continuing to recognize it in the body?
Excellent question. The first question, it is not always your responsibility to heal the ancestral patterns. We would like to make that clear. It may be your purpose or within your chosen life experience to do so. It is often the purview of your ancestors themselves to do the healing. Occasionally, it is yours. Very frequently, it must be done from both sides. This is a completely individual experience and unique to each situation. Your ancestral healing around sexual abuse will be very different than ancestral healing around alcoholism. The second question, does it end with you? If you have already had children, it may come close, but they often have some of their own work to do. If you have not had children yet, then it may end with you. And let us be clear about what the ending is. The experiences still exist. The cognitive loops exist. What you are doing is healing, is you are allowing a relaxation to occur, regardless of whether you are thinking those thoughts or beliefs or not. That is healing, my friends. We do not end. The experience is already in existence. And as many of you know, existences or occurrences rather, from thousands of years ago to now exist simultaneously. Time bending is a conversation for another evening. However, we are healing such that we can fully relax as we think of these experiences. And to your second question, please remind us of what that second question was.
Sure. Is it in how to figure out, is it that fear will continue to show up in one person in the same area, or does it show itself in all different parts of the body depending on what the fear mechanism is or the initiation of the fear?
Most excellent question. Several part question. Fears of different natures can occur in the same location, in the same tonal node, depending on the person. For your energetic signatures are different. They are as different as thumbprints. And so, for an individual that has great ancestral patterns around illness, for example, may have most of their fear revolved around ailments and illness and death. And that is attracted generally to one particular type of tonal range or of tone. And as that human experiences illness or injury, that tone then begins to attract that type of information. And so that information often gets stored in the same location. If we are discussing different fears, some may overlap, some may not. Some may come in pairs, some may not. As a generality is what you are asking. And this is difficult to give because each unique individual has their own signature. Should you experience a particular type of fear more than any other? Should most of your fear circulate around one particular style of fear? Then yes, more than likely, that tone will be highly active. And so, to begin, that is where we look for the energetic signature in that location. In any event, should you be dealing with multiple fears, we do not suggest tackling them all at the same time. We suggest moving with one to begin with, so that you can focus your direction and intention to locating that signature and working within that tone. As this skill, we will call it skill, you might call it muscle, develops, as your sensing becomes stronger, as your alignment within your four systems comes back online, and you are aware of all of these signature sensations, working with one first will be the fastest way to develop this. Does that make sense?
It does, yes. Thank you for that.
Yes. Any other questions at this time? Very good. Should this be a practice that you are actively seeking out at this time and would like more assistance, we encourage you to contact us such that we can prescribe the best course forward for you. In order to do that, we often request access to your full system to allow for us to recognize where in alignment or out of alignment your four systems are. At this time, please do not hesitate to reach out with further follow-up questions. We are always available. We wish you a beautiful evening.